Mapping Paul's journeys. Fourth missionary journey.
Before entering the temple, Paul and his companions shaved their heads in accordance with the law of Moses, but it was not enough to satisfy the legalists. They incited a mob, and Paul was rescued by Roman soldiers. When Paul was brought before the Sanhedrin, the high priest ordered him to be hit in the mouth. Then a disagreement broke out between the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Secretly, 40 Jews vowed not to eat or drink until they killed Paul. Paul's nephew heard about it and told the commander, who ordered 200 Roman soldiers to escort Paul out of the city at night. They went as far as Antipatris, and the cavalry picked up Paul and took him the rest of the way to Caesarea, where Paul was kept under guard in Herod's palace. Ananias, the high priest who ordered Paul to be hit in the mouth, took his lawyer, Tertullus, to Caesarea to bring charges against Paul, calling him a troublemaker and ringleader of the Nazarene sect. Remember, Jesus grew up in Nazareth. Paul said, "It is concerning the resurrection of the dead that I am on trial before you today." Felix, along with his Jewish wife Drusilla, spoke with Paul in secret, but got scared because Paul spoke of righteousness, self-control, and the judgment to come. For 2 years, Paul remained under guard in Herod's palace. In 59 AD, Porcius Festus replaced Felix as governor in Caesarea and asked Paul if he was willing to go to Jerusalem to face charges. He didn't know it, but the Jews were planning to kill Paul on his way to Jerusalem. Paul refused to go, appealing to Caesar, as was his right as a Roman citizen. A few days later, Paul made his case for Christ before King Agrippa and his wife Bernice, who were visiting Festus, to which the king replied, "Do you think that in such a short time you can persuade me to be a Christian?" Sometime later, Paul was taken by a centurion named Julius onto a ship, which sailed to Sidon. From there they sailed around Cyprus, past Cilicia and Pamphylia, to Myra in Lycia.
A prominent city in Paul's time, it is known for its rock-cut tombs and magnificent theater.
From there, they boarded a ship heading to Italy. However, the wind pushed them off course to Cnidus, around Crete, and next to Salmone, arriving eventually in Fair Havens near Lasea. Paul warned them that the voyage was going to end in disaster, but they didn't listen. For the next 14 days, they battled a storm, but were shipwrecked on the island of Malta. On Malta, Paul was bitten by a poisonous snake, but he didn't die. He also healed the father of Publius, the chief official who welcomed them to his home. After that, the rest of the sick on the island came to Paul to be healed. 3 months later, they boarded another ship with the figurehead of the twin gods Castor and Pollux, and sailed to Syracuse, and then to Rhegium, finally landing in Puteoli, where they stayed with Christian brothers and sisters who had traveled from the Forum of Appius and the 3 taverns just to meet them. A week later, Paul traveled the rest of the way to Rome. He called together the local Jewish leaders to make his defense. Some believed, but others didn't. For the next 2 years, Paul stayed in his own rented house and welcomed all who came to see him. And that was the end of Paul's 4th missionary journey and the book of Acts, but not the story of Paul. Around this time, Paul wrote Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, and Philemon. In 62 AD, Paul is believed to have been released from prison. Some believe he traveled to Spain, as he mentioned in his letter to the Romans that he intended to visit them on his way to Spain. During this time, he wrote his first letter to Timothy and another letter to Titus. Around 66 AD, he was rearrested and imprisoned in Rome.
I'm back.
During this time, he wrote his second letter to Timothy, which would be his last letter. Emperor Nero began a great persecution of Christians, blaming them for the burning of Rome in 64 AD. As a Roman citizen, however, Paul could not be crucified or burned. Instead, he was beheaded in Rome in 67 AD near the Via Laurentina, at a spot marked today by the Church of St. Paul at the Three Fountains. And thus ended the physical life of Paul, but not his eternal life, which he claims in glory. Philippians 1:21. For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain.